So yesterday I showed you how I can set my laser at the doorstep where I want my patio to go in, set my pitch at 1.5%, which is 1 inch per 10 feet, and it tells me what my patio height is going to be all the way out here. So I stack this here to show you. Patio height is going to be right here. Listen to that. Solid beep. So I know this is patio height out here. Now this one is a little bit different from the walkway. Is going to go from this height, which is patio height up here, to the blacktop down there. So I'm locked in. I can't use 1.5% because it's probably not going to hold out. I have to make up a grade that goes from point A to point B. This is very common if you're going like from a driveway to a front door or something like that. The 2 points can't move. So now I need to know, what should I set my laser to? What percent am I going to set my laser to? It's a pretty easy math formula to figure that out. First of all, I have to find the difference between how many inches higher this is than that, or lower, or so on. So I'm going to find the difference in height between the 2 points, between point A and point B. I'm going to change my laser back to spinning level. There we go. Now my laser's spinning level instead of on a slope. Remember, this is what patio height is going to be out here. I'm at 3'3". Now let's come down here to the blacktop. 3'3". It's going to be lower, so that means I need to stick up 11.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8.5 inches of difference. So we have 8.5 inches of drop in how many feet? So what was my difference? 8.5. Here's 299 plus 24. So get my calculator, and 323. There I go. I divide that, the amount of difference, by the length in inches, move in my decimal point, and I know the grade is going to be 2.6315%. Now, if I get that laser spinning at 2.6315%, that's going to be the grade that I need to go perfectly from this point to that point. I want a negative slope, and the difference in height divided by the length of the walk gives me 2.631, so I'm gonna enter that information in here. There we go. Now, when that starts spinning, I should be able to set my target on the patio height up here, and it should match with the blacktop down there. All right, let's see if I did the math right. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, come down here to the blacktop. That's what I like about hardscape. If you do your numbers right, it holds out perfectly every time. There we go. Now I know when I start to excavate that I'm excavating at 2.6%. Okay, so whenever you've finished moving part of the earth, doing your excavation, I'll oftentimes get my paint can and I'll mark out the exact measurements of my patio walkway. You can see some of the marks that I made here, and the reason for this is I want to see at least 6 inches of over dig. So if my patio is 4 feet, there you can see a little bit of the other line. I ended up having to dig out a few inches more because it was too tight. If you have a 4-foot walkway, you should have 5 feet of excavation, 6 inches extra on either side. That applies for walkways, patios, everywhere, the whole way around. I have at least 6 inches, maybe more, of extra base. Now that your excavation's done, I'll take a plate compactor or a jumping jack with compaction tools, and I'll run it over the subgrade. We just did it over here to pack in any of the loose soil. If you have like a very small area and you're doing it all with hand tools, you can use a hand tamp. Right now it's, looks like it's the GoPro stand right now. But this is a hand tamp, and this works for small areas. I think it'll mess up the footage if I... No, not a big deal, just break the camera. Can you hear me now? Or you can rent one of these machines. This is a plate compactor, that's a jumping jack. Plate compactors get a little bit of a smoother finish. They're made for stone. Sometimes if your subgrade is nice, like we have here, this is really nice subgrade, you're able to use the plate compactor. The jumping jack is more for a subgrade. It's to work in dirt and rough excavation. This thing won't work unless it's nice and flat and smooth. This is what we use to compact our stone then. So I'll run my jumping jack over it. Let's do that. Okay, so excavation is done, subgrade's compacted. Now, before we start compacting in our 2A, I'm going to put down separation fabric. It is a woven geotextile fabric. You can see that it's woven. This is not landscape fabric. This is not weed fabric. This is a structural woven geotextile. It has two purposes. It distributes the weight, it disperses the weight of the stone, and creates a more stable base, and it also separates the stone from the dirt. Here we threw down a little bit of 2B limestone, and the dirt just kind of consumes it. After a number of years, the dirt and the stone would mix and compromise your base. So we roll out this geotextile fabric. This stuff is pretty readily available at any garden center, your local block supplier, retail center for home and garden. Just make sure that they don't give you weed fabric, landscape fabric. You can tear this stuff pretty easy. This stuff is really strong. You can't tear it. That's not what you want to use, and if someone doesn't know what they're doing, they might try to get you to use that. Make sure that it's a woven geotextile fabric. Okay, and as soon as I have all this excavation covered with fabric, I'm gonna overlap the two pieces by 10 inches. 12. Deej likes to overlap it by about 8 feet, or just double them up.
Extra precaution.
And then we're ready to start compacting in our stone. Okay folks, we can actually start building right now. We're gonna start compacting in our 2A stone base. To do that, I want to shoot the same grade I did for the excavation, which is 1.5% pitched away from the house. That's 1.5 inches per 10 feet. And I wanna do it from this point, well actually 2 inches higher than this point, because I'm putting a cap on top of here that's 2 inches high. So set it on there, go up 2 inches, so down on the stick, so 1, 2, that'll be on the 4. Now, that's going to be patio height, right there. So I need room for 2 inches of paver and 1 inch of setting bed. So that's 3 inches down. So 3 inches up is 1, 2, 3, it's right on the 7. And there is the height that I need to get my stone in. There, let's see how that looks. Should leave me at least, there we go. And my excavation's right, because I have at least 6 inches there, probably more. Now, let's talk about the stone that we put in. This is a 2A modified, so it has fines in, so it does need to be compacted. The only difference between this and the regular 2B clean stone that we were using is it has these fines in. It's a dirty stone. We put that in there and compact it. You can put it in, if you're compacting with one of the plate compactor, you can put it in about 3 inches at a time. If you're compacting it with a jumping jack, you should be able to put it in at about 6 inches at a time. So DJ is gonna get in the skid loader here, and he's gonna start spreading this on top of the separation fabric. I'm gonna run our fancy rake and get it nice and smooth, and when we get about 3 inches in there, I'm gonna plate it. And then we're gonna bring the last 3 inches in and plate it again. And then we'll go over it with one guy's gonna run the laser stick, the other guy's gonna run the rake, and we're gonna fine tune it until it's exactly perfect so that we're ready to screed out our setting bed. All right, let's pack in some stone. we're nearly done packing stone. This is the final lift. We're very close. It varies, what, about an inch, inch and a half across the top, half inch. The more careful and precise you are setting, grading out that base, the easier it's going to be to screed out your setting bed. So this is a part that you want to take your time and do right. It works really well to have one person run a rake and the other person your laser stick to tell you what you need to do to get it perfect. So that's what DJ and I are going to do right now. All right, with the help of my laser man, I know it's perfect. It's gonna make it easy when we come to screed out our setting bed. Okay, what do you do when you want to run your walkway up to your blacktop, but your blacktop edge looks like this? Well, you take a flex pipe and get a nice edge on the way you want, and you cut it off with your paver saw. That way you have a nice edge to lay your pavers up against. I'm gonna cut it, and then when it's done, as in the whole project's done, I'll show you guys how cool this looks, because otherwise it would have looked stupid. I don't like stupid stuff. There, much better. So we've just completed our compaction and grading of our base. This is the most crucial part of hardscape, and if a hardscape fails, this is almost always the reason why. When you're finished with your hardscape, it needs your base, your compacted 2A, needs to be at least 6 inches thick. It needs to extend out past the edge of your walkway patio by at least 6 inches. I painted out where our walkway is going to go when I'm done here, and you can see that my base stays nice and vertical. It's good solid base, at least 6 inches, probably more most places, out past the edge of where the patio is going to go. This doesn't count. If I had my line here, I'd have 6 inches, but that's not good base. It's starting to tilt away. It's probably only 3 inches thick. My last good base is probably about here, so I'm good. Compaction is absolutely crucial. When you're running this vibra plate over it, that compaction equipment, you'll feel that plate start to really vibrate and jitter across the surface of your base. Once you feel that thing jitter across the surface of your base, you know you're compacted hard enough. If it's soft, the thing is just, it still vibrates, of course, but it just, you can feel it's just sinking down into the stone. Once you've reached final compaction, it's going to feel like you're running the thing over blacktop. Maybe not quite that bad, but it really jitters across the top. So compaction and deep enough and wide enough is 100% crucial when you're putting in your base. If your base is done properly, that's what fills in hardscape. If that's not gonna fill, then your hardscape isn't gonna fill. So you may have noticed that we use two different kinds of base in here. One is a 2B clean stone, and the other is a 2A with fines in it. 2B clean stone does not need to be compacted. It's fully compacted. It doesn't have fines, so it doesn't settle. And if I have spaces that are really tight, I can't get compaction equipment in very nicely, like in these two corners, I'll fill it in with 2B clean stone, and then I don't need to compact it. Now, I know what you're thinking. If 2B doesn't need compacted, why don't you use that over the entire patio? And I'll show you why. It has to do with our edgers. See, around the whole outside perimeter of the walkway and patio. So around the whole outside perimeter of the walkway and patio, we run this edge restraint to hold our setting bed in place. And I'll show you how we put that in when we get to that part. But they are put in place with spikes. And if I have it in 2B clean stone, it doesn't hold. It doesn't hold. If I put it in 2A, which is compacted, has fines in it, that holds. So it's all about edging. If you're doing a permeable permeable patio that needs to drain, you can use 2B. Then you don't need to compact it. You should still compact your subgrade, but it takes a special edging system. Oftentimes you're going to end up using a concrete edging system, which is a lot more time consuming and a little more complicated to put in. So because this is the edging system we use and it's easy to install and it works well, we use 2A instead of 2B. One last step before we're ready to lay pavers, and I promise after we're done with this, we're gonna start laying pavers. This is the setting bed. We use a washed 1/4 inch stone. It's smaller than a 1B. It's basically the same thing they use for cinders on the road. We like it because it doesn't settle, because it's a clean stone. It doesn't have any fines in. It's easy to screed. Yeah, that's about it. That's why it's the best. There's other things you can use. You can use a stone dust. That's exactly like this, except it has fines in it. The only trouble with that is it holds moisture and it compacts a little bit, so it's gonna settle some. That's not a good option. The other thing you can use is concrete sand. We find that it's harder to screed, but that works as well. We like to use a washed 1/4 inch stone for a setting bed. So yeah, concrete sand, stone dust, and then number 9s, which is a clean stone. Those are three things you could use for a setting bed. Some people even use 1Bs. 1Bs is a clean stone, bigger than this. It's a little easier to find. There's nothing wrong with that. I've laid with 1Bs already. It doesn't handle quite as nicely. It's harder to screed nice. This stuff screeds amazing. So what I'm gonna do, I set out these poles. They're 1 inch thick because we want an 1 inch thick setting bed. And once again, I set my laser on patio height, the doorstep, and I go down 2 inches because I want to allow for a 2 inch paver. It's actually what, 2 3/8?
Roughly, yeah.
I think it's about 2 3/8, but I figure 2 inches, so it's about 1/8 of an inch high or so. And when we're done, we run a vibra plate over top of our pavers and it settles a little bit. So this thing is set for 2 inches below paver height. It's saying a little bit high. That post is giving me a bit of trouble. It's a little bit high. I'm gonna take my dead blow. See how you like me now. This is pretty, we want it to be very accurate. These lasers often have a precise setting and a little bit more sloppy setting. I want it to be as precise as possible, so it's super picky. Boom, that's good. Come down here. Oh yeah. This is why when I'm putting in base, I'd rather have it just a tad low than a tad high, because if it's too high, then I need to beat down these poles, which isn't cool. It's so much easier just to bring it up just a little bit. Boom. I'm gonna have to check this top end again because I'm sure it's messed up. Okay, that's good. See this one. See this one, it wants me to go up just a little bit, which is so easy. Scrape a little bit of 9s in and pull up that thing, that pole. Oh, it's beautiful. Just listen to that noise. It's my favorite noise in the world. If base is really good, then you don't need to do anything at all. It's spot on. Okay, so when you have your poles set the way we showed you, then you're ready to start screeding. For a screed pole, you can use anything that's straight. You can use a 2x4 if it's not bent. It has to be a straight one. We use an aluminum bar. If they're not spaced far, you can use a 4-foot level or a 6-foot level, or yeah, anything that's straight. Get your setting bed down and just drag it out. Pretty slick, isn't it? That is a perfect setting bed. Keep stone in front of your bar so there's no hollow spots anywhere.